Today on Off the Grid, he's been called a whistleblower, the world's most wanted man, a national security threat. But to me, Edward Snowden is an American hero. That's today on Off the Grid. Today it's all about the latest on the NSA rabble-rouser Edward Snowden. He's been labeled the world's most wanted man. But in my books, he's an American hero, which is why he is our very first real-life vigilante. Let's go to my off-the-grid command center where my own vigilant producer will start us off. Alex, take it away. What do you got today?
All right, so we have some recent news about Edward Snowden. There's a shocking report in this new case. The website BuzzFeed claims a Pentagon official bluntly told them, "I would love to put a bullet in his head. I do not take pleasure in taking another human being's life, having to do it in uniform, but he is single-handedly the greatest traitor in American history." So what do you think, Governor? Is he really the greatest traitor in American history?
Well, of course not. That's quite a slanted viewpoint naturally from the Pentagon right there. A traitor, no. What this official's failing to realize is that he works for us and that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the documents that weave and keep our country a whole. They are the most important documents and the most important laws to our nation. What gives the government the right to violate the Bill of Rights? What gives the government the right to break the law and get away with it, plus put a bullet in his head? That's the most serious thing I've ever heard in my life. Whatever happened to arresting someone, giving them due process, and allowing a jury to determine judge, jury, and executioner? We're getting too much of that today up there in the United States. We're getting far too much of that up there today, of nobody getting their day in court. What are we, back to the old West now, where all you do is put a bounty on people if they do something wrong? You don't care about a trial. You send out a bunch of bounty hunters to kill them and then bring the body back and everybody has a party then? I don't get that. What's next?
Well, one Army intelligence officer reportedly told the site, "I think if we had the chance, we would end it very quickly. Just casually walking on the streets of Moscow, going back to his flat, and he is casually poked by a passerby. He thinks nothing of it at the time, starts to feel a little woozy and thinks it's a parasite from the local water. He goes home very innocently, and next thing you know, he dies in the shower." There's no indication the United States has sought to take vengeance on Snowden yet, but because Snowden is now a figure known across the world, don't you think the U.S. security forces are a bit more tactical than that?
Well, you'd think so, because as I said before, his nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize may have saved his life. If he turns up dead now, the natural suspects, obviously the United States government, but I'm sure they'll come out with something and say he died of natural causes and it was just something bad just happened, circumstantial, I suppose. But it makes me sick to think this. Nobody's talking about a trial. Nobody's talking about a day in court. The United States of America now periodically just kills people at will that they don't like. I guess maybe I better start looking over my shoulder a little bit more. What else you got, Alex?
Okay, well, another BuzzFeed report quotes a Department of Defense official stating, "By Snowden showing who our collections partners were, the terrorists have dropped those carriers an email address. We can't find them because he released the data. Their electronic signature is gone." So aren't these valid concerns in regards to our national security?
Well, yes, I suppose they might be, but again, what takes priority, our national security or the Bill of Rights and the Constitution? My vote is with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. That is the more important document. That should take priority. I want to be free and I want to be protected by those documents, and that's number one in Jesse Ventura's book. What's the last thing you got?
All right, Snowden is currently living in an undisclosed location in Russia without visible security measures, according to the Washington Post, and that was from the Washington Post on December 23rd. Do you think Snowden is really living in danger?
Obviously he is, because we now kill people without arresting them. We determine their guilt, and in the United States, habeas corpus is still suspended. I don't know how many people know that. That's your right to a lawyer. Well, if the government says what you've done is an act of terrorism, well then you don't get a lawyer. And guess who gets to make that determination? Does a panel do it? Does a group of lawyers do it? Does the evidence do it? No. The government makes that determination. So they will decide whether you get an attorney or not. Now, how ridiculous is that if you're an American citizen? And the last time I checked, I believe Edward Snowden is an American citizen, so he deserves every right guaranteed to him under the Constitution of Bill of Rights. And I think that's really the big problem with our government. They don't want to acknowledge their wrongdoing. What you've got here is a little shifting of the blame, kill the messenger rather than the message. The government doesn't want you to focus on the fact that they're spying on all of us illegally and continue to do so, and they lied to us. Oh, that they don't want us to pay any attention to. They want us to believe that what Snowden did is going to affect our way of fighting and our servicemen and all that. Well, maybe we ought to look at peace for a change. Maybe we ought to look at how could Snowden affect us in this big war we have? What are we doing throughout the world that's causing us to be hated by so many people? Obviously, they hate us for something, and it's not what George Bush said, our freedoms. Clearly, to me, I'm more afraid of my own government than I am Al-Qaeda, because it's my government that is destroying my Bill of Rights. It's my government that's defying our Constitution. It's not Al-Qaeda doing that. It's my government doing that. I don't want them to do that anymore. It's that simple.
Do you think that what he's done in leaking this information actually constitutes peace?
Well, I think that, I think in a way that it does. I think it's a step forward, because when you hide things from the public and do things under the table and behind people's backs, that's what you do in preparation of going to war. Secrecy leads to war. So absolutely, I think it qualifies as a peace prize. Bringing it above board, showing the world what the United States government was doing to its own citizens. That's the part that I find so offensive. Bad enough that they're doing it to everybody else throughout the world, but doing it to our own citizens? Excuse me, don't they work on our money? Well, how can they take my money and then put me under surveillance with money that I sent them? That's obscene, it's ridiculous, I'm tired of it. They're saying Jesse Ventura is now a terrorist, so we need to watch him. Well, I got news for him. To me, my own government's the terrorist, more so, taking my freedoms by stomping on the Bill of Rights and by pretending they're not violating the Fourth Amendment of reasonable search and seizure, and by continuing with the Patriot Act. How on earth did our elected officials pass that? It's so un-American, it's unbelievable.
So the Snowden saga continues. A new book by reporter Luke Harding from the British newspaper The Guardian has just been released. The Guardian was a key player in the Snowden saga, as it provided an outlet for the former NSA contractor to expose what he knew about the U.S. mass surveillance programs. In the book titled The Snowden Files, The Inside Story of the World's Most Wanted Man, the author claims a government official told The Guardian editors that no serious news organization would publish this, referring to their original article on Snowden. So do you believe the government officials were calling the paper's bluff by saying that?
No, I think that they were just hoping that, above all hopes, that the media would fall in line, that they could use some type of tactic to get the media to not print Snowden and thus diffuse the whole situation, and then they wouldn't have been faced with any of this. I say kudos to the media that helped Snowden expose all this. This is their job. Their job is to watch the government and inform upon them to the people. That's what the Founding Fathers had in mind for the media. The media has been asleep for far too many years, and they've been going along to get along. The media is supposed to be the opposite. They're supposed to hold the government accountable. But then again, if the media were to do that, then I probably wouldn't have a job now, would I, off the grid? Actually, I should tell the media, great job, mainstream media. Quit doing your job so that I can do it.
Well, now, Governor, we're going to segue into our next segment, From the People. This is your Ask Jesse segment, where people have written in wanting to know about your views on the NSA and Edward Snowden. From Robert Galaz in Duluth, Minnesota. If you become our next president, will you stop the NSA dead in its tracks?
Well, you could bet if I became the next president, there would be a change of policy. I wouldn't put necessarily people of the United States under surveillance like they have. With Jesse Ventura, you'd truly get much more open government. I would open the files on the Kennedy killing. I would expose everything that was timely. But I understand the reason for security at certain times, having been in the military, having had a top secret security clearance when I was in there. But after a few years pass and the event's well over, if you're on the up and up, you should have no worry about exposing it to the public. That's the problem. That's why they don't want it exposed to the public, because they're not usually on the up and up. That's the way it is with all the documents on the murder of John Kennedy. I mean, if Lee Harvey Oswald legitimately did it, why would they have any need to put any documents that we couldn't see? The point is, they use national security now to cover up all their wrongdoing, and they use it in a manner so that we can't be informed of what they're doing. We need to take charge again, because again, I'll repeat it over and over. We are the boss, not them. Government works for you. You're the boss.
Jesse from Shane Butts in Graham, West Virginia, is staying in the country an acceptable risk at this point?
Is staying in the country an acceptable risk? Certainly it is. The war ain't over. And when I say that, the war against our government. We need vigilant citizens. We need you in the country. We need you to vote. Voting's the most important thing you can do right now. The best way to take our country back is stop voting for Democrats and Republicans. They are the problem. They are not the solution. And if you think switching from one to the other is going to solve the problem, you're sadly mistaken. In fact, let me expound on this a little bit. Right now in our country, everybody's hollering and screaming about Obama and the economy and how bad it is. Well, people in the United States seem to have a very short memory, because it was a mere 10 years ago, and let me state this having been in government, decisions made now on the economy, you're not going to see them till 4 or 5 years from now, the results of those decisions. So if you go to 2008, when the big recession, depression hit, you're looking at decisions made in 2003, when we had a Republican president and a Republican Congress for 6 years, from 2000 to 2006. They are responsible for this bad economy. You're hearing it from an independent now. I am not a Democrat, but they are responsible. They did it, and yet the American people now want to go back to them to fix the economy? How ridiculous can that possibly be? Are their memories really that short that they can't remember back? I even said it to my wife before the 2008 elections. And I know I'm rambling here, but tough luck, it's my show. I even said to my wife before the 2008 elections, I wouldn't want to be this president for nothing, because this president is going to get blamed for everything George Bush and Dick Cheney did. But I'll save Dick Cheney and George Bush for another day. I'll devote a whole show to Dick Cheney. Get ready for that one. Anyway, Alex, what else? We're winding down here.
We've got one more question. So now that we've looked back into the past, from John Stevens, he wants to know, where do you see our government going in the next 5 years?
Where do I see my government going in the next 5 years? That'll depend on you, the people, because it'll be your choice of who you elect in these next elections. And as long as you keep electing Democrats and Republicans, you're going down the same road. No change, no nothing. The determination of where our government will be in the next 5 years will depend on you, the people of the United States, where they end up. Continue to elect these people? Well, maybe Hillary Clinton's next, right? After all, we've only got a couple families that can provide presidents in the United States now. Isn't that interesting? I thought that's why we left England a couple hundred years ago. That's it for today's edition of Off the Grid. The body's still got the pipes. I'll keep updating you on the Snowden case. And don't forget to write me, call me, tweet me. Even if you disagree with me, I want to hear from you. And remember, my most important message, stolen by the president: stay vigilant. Documents that weave and keep our country a whole, they are the most important documents and the most important laws to our nation. What gives the government the right to violate the Bill of Rights? What gives the government the right to break the law and get away with it, plus put a bullet in his head? That's the most serious thing I've ever heard in my life. Whatever happened to today on Off the Grid? He's been called a whistleblower, the world's most wanted man, a national security threat. But to me, Edward Snowden is an American hero. That's today on Off the Grid. Today it's all about the latest on the NSA rabble-rouser Edward Snowden. He's been labeled the world's most wanted man. But in my books, he's an American hero, which is why he is our very first real-life vigilante. Let's go to my off-the-grid command center where my own vigilant producer will start us off. Alex, take it away. What do you got today?
All right, so we have some recent news about Edward Snowden. There's a shocking report in this new case. The website BuzzFeed claims a Pentagon official bluntly told them, "I would love to put a bullet in his head. I do not take pleasure in taking another human being's life, having to do it in uniform, but he is single-handedly the greatest traitor in American history." So what do you think, Governor? Is he really the greatest traitor in American history?
Well, of course not. That's quite a slanted viewpoint, naturally, from the Pentagon right there. A traitor, no. What this official's failing to realize is that he works for us and that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the